Hey guys, and welcome back to Skill-Lync. Whenever someone talks about levers, the first thing that comes to our mind is the seesaw. And that's because that's what we learned in school. It's essentially two loads placed on a beam, pivoted on the center. But that's not the only kind of lever that exists. In fact, we use objects in our daily lives which are based on the principle of a lever. A scissors and a seesaw are classified as class 1 levers. If I open up the scissors, you can see that it's pivoted at the center. One side we apply the effort, and the other side we see the effect of the effort by cutting through paper or cloth. Now, you would have realized that if you are cutting paper or cloth, then the effort required is less. But if you are cutting cardboard or something harder, then you need to apply more effort. Another type of lever that exists, which is a class 1 lever, is a screwdriver. Again, it might not look like it because it's called a modified class 1 lever. Here, you apply the effort at this side on the handle. The pivot is very close to the effort that you apply, and the work done is on the screw, which you're trying to tighten or loosen. Which is why you would have noticed that if you are using bigger screw heads, then you need to use a screwdriver with a longer handle because you're increasing the distance between the pivot and the effort that you apply. Coming to class 2 levers, these are defined as levers in which the work done lies in between the effort applied and the pivot point. A great example of this is the stapler, in which the effort applied is on the blue handles, the work done is the pin stapling the papers, and the pivot point is at the end. Another example of this is the spanner, in which the nut and the bolt are actually the pivot point. The load is applied on this side of the spanner, and the force is on this side of the spanner. Just like in class 1 levers, if you increase the distance between the pivot point and the effort applied, then it becomes easier to do the job. This brings us to class 3 levers, in which the effort applied lies in between the work done and the pivot point. In a hammer, the place where you hold it actually becomes the pivot point. The effort is the force with which you strike the hammer, and the work done is the nail that you're trying to drive in. Now, an interesting thing about the hammer or a class 3 lever is that if you move the pivot point away from the work done, then it becomes easier to do the work. For example, if I move the hammer like this, then this is the pivot point. But if I move the pivot point to my shoulder, then it becomes easier to apply more effort. And this is why hammers with longer handles can do more work than hammers with shorter handles. Now that you've learned about different kinds of levers, why don't you observe various objects around your house and figure out which classification of levers do they fall under? For example, is a door a lever? If it is, then which class?